Hey kids, we're back on this 92 Suzuki QuadRunner. If you missed the last couple of videos, I bought this from an owner who had it stored underneath his deck for many years, and he threw some fresh gas and a new battery in it, and it wouldn't come to life, and he didn't want anything more to do with it. When we loaded it into my trailer, both the rear and the front wheels were completely seized, so we spent the last couple of videos freeing those up so it was easier to push in and out of the garage when needed. Today's the big day. We're going to try to get this thing running. So what's our next steps? I guess we'll pop that spark plug off and have a peek down the cylinder. Maybe throw a little oil in there to lube things up. See if it has spark. We'll check to make sure it has oil. We'll pop that seat off and have a look at the air filter, and that's actually where the carburetor sits. We'll pull the carburetor out of it and give that a good cleaning because I'm sure that's all gummed up after sitting with fuel in it for so many years. We'll put a new battery in it. I have that on charger. And we'll check the fuel system to make sure the carburetor is getting fuel from the gas tank. There's a petcock and fuel pump on these things that are known to cause a lot of issues. So let me throw you in a tripod and grab some tools and let's get started. I'd say put a new plug in it as well because that thing doesn't look like it's ever been run. That doesn't look right on the top unless it's stuck in there, which I don't think it is. All right, let me grab my camera and we'll have a look. All right, let's get this thing fired up. We'll see how this works out here. That looks really good. Now, I hit that button there. Look the other side. I guess that's all I really wanted to see. Just to make sure that we weren't going to try to start something that was completely rusted. I mean, there's some carbon on top of the piston, but the cylinder walls look good. I'm not very good at operating that camera. So I'm going to put a little oil down there. I know that will mess up any compression tests that we do, but I think it's more important to get some oil in there. I'm just going to spray a little oil in here. Let's have a look at the air filter. Oh, still has a little toolbox. Oh, air pressure gauge for the tires. That's pretty cool. The bags are a little crispy. Yeah, it's written there on the back. That screwdriver probably has the exact. The little gaskets completely rotted out there. It's fine as long as you can get this stuff. Yeah, this thing here's shot. How that comes out of there now. Those old air filters, they just turned to mush. As I'm holding it over, I'm gonna have to vacuum that out. All right, I'll get a vacuum cleaner and vacuum that mess out. I don't know if you can see that, but looks like there was damage there to the air box. Back when we were working on this rear wheel, we noticed that the sight window for the oil was completely full. For this setup here, the engine, transmission, and the rear end, they all are serviced by the same oil. And if you look, there's a lower mark and an upper mark, but this window is completely full. So we better drain that out and see what we're dealing with here. It's possible they just overfilled it, or maybe it's filled with fuel. Sometimes if that float needle is not working properly and sealing it off, the fuel will just keep flowing and fill your crankcase. All right, there's our bolt. It is a 17 millimeter. Got a pan here ready to catch it. It's looking like oil, so I'm thinking that it was probably just over full, which is a good thing. But we'll have a look and we'll get it changed here. The worst thing about this machine is it takes 3.5 liters of oil, so it's costly to change. So we'll probably change it, see if we can get it fired up, and then drive it a little bit, and then change it again. I'm just going to open up the oil fill cap so it can drain out. The oil fill cap is on the back of the machine here, up by the axle. I'll show it to you when we fill it up. All right, this is done draining. I left it overnight. So that just looks like oil, which is good. Yes, it was due for a good change, but I don't smell any fuel in it, which is what I was worried about. So I think they just had too much in it. Now, this oil, I went over to Suzuki and got a new oil filter. And if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, start looking into oil. I went into the service manual, and I'll just read what this says. Use a high quality detergent 10W40 motor oil with API classification SF or SG. Do not use any friction reducing additives in the oil as it will cause clutch slippage. So I went to talk to the mechanics at Suzuki, and because this manual was written, I don't know, 35 years ago, so those API classifications are long out of date. Now, the mechanic told me that this can be used, this is 10W40, and it can be used on any motorcycle or ATV that Suzuki sells. And the reason why is it has this, where is it here in English? Exceeds all JASO MA2 requirements. Now this JASO standard, it's to be used wherever there's an engine and clutch that use the same oil. For this particular ATV, the engine, clutch, and the gearbox all uses the same oil. I bought, what did I buy? 4 or 5 bottles of this. And I know the mechanic, by the way. So then he told me to go buy this stuff because it's half price and it's actually on sale right now. And he said, this is what everybody runs instead of buying that expensive oil from Suzuki. So I was reading the back of this, and it says, oh, one thing he told me about this is do not use synthetic oil. And they sell 2 types. They sell this 10W40, and then they sell a synthetic 10W40. So this stuff, the T4, is a non-synthetic. You can get T5 and T6, which is a synthetic. So he told me to buy this, and I see down here that it has a JASO MA2 specification. So then I got curious and I came home and I just started looking up on the internet to see what I could find. And really, I trust a lot of those guys in the forums. You don't know who they are or what they know, but when you have 50 of them saying they all run this oil, you pretty much have to believe that it's pretty good stuff. on these old Suzuki QuadRunners and King Quads. So what I found on the internet was up until 1998, they just had regular automotive oil, and they were using that in most motorcycle engines. But as cars evolved, the engine oil had anti-wear additives added, which wasn't good for motorcycles, so they had to come up with something different. So this, what's it called? This JASO stands for Japanese Automotive Standards Organization, and it's an organization that is the equivalent to the API, the American Petroleum Institute specifications. And this JASO oversees the oil needed for modern Japanese engines. So it goes on to say API standards are meant for the automobile engine, not the motorcycle engine. The reason being that automotive engine oil will cause your clutch to slip. The MA standard has no friction modifier, so that is what to use with a wet clutch setup in most motorcycles and ATVs. Put this drain plug back in. And it's supposed to be a torque of 13 to 16.5. It's empty now, and we need 3,500 milliliters. All right, we're gonna try the Suzuki oil. Well, there's 1,000. We need to go 3,500, so I'll bring you back when it's finished. These containers here are 1 quart, 946 mils, and I have 3 of them in there, and that's 2838, I think. And let me show you over here. So that's 3 quarts, and we're just a little bit below that top mark, which is exactly where we need to be. Now, I didn't remove the oil filter, so that probably takes up the rest. So we'll leave it there, and we'll keep an eye on that, make sure nothing's dripping out of the bottom of it. And the next step is, let's see if this thing has spark. Just hooking up this battery here. It's an AGM battery, and it's sealed. The old batteries must have had a breather hose on them. I read on the internet that if you take a earplug, it'll hold that nut. I tried it on the other side and it worked really well, so I'm going to do it again here. I don't have the rubber strap to go across, so that's something else that's going to have to go on the list. We're not going anywhere with it anyways. Let's see if we have power. Oh yeah. Oh, we even have lights. I want to see if it has spark. That's a Champion plug, RA8HC, and I don't know if that's the right plug. When I was at Suzuki the other day, I got an NGK 7839 DR7EA, which matches what I see in the service manual. So we're going to go with that. They look the exact same. Alrighty, let's check for spark. I turned the lights out. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but I'll tell you what I see. I see spark. That's good news. So we can cross that off the list. I'm all set up to do a compression test. We're going to go wide open on the throttle to let as much air in as we can. Should probably turn this on. And here we go. Oh, 114 is the go or no go. And what is it, 142 to 199 is what the service manual wants to see. Here we go. $185, so we are in good shape. Now, I can't do this and hold the throttle wide open, but Dad used to just put his thumb over it. And if it can blow your thumb off the hole, then you're good. I like to just do that just so I can check it real quick without having to get that compression tester out. Earlier in the video, I think I was mentioning that these spark plugs don't have a terminal nut on them, and that's the way they're supposed to be. I'm just going to check the gap. It's supposed to be 24 to 28. That's not even 20. So we'll open this up a little bit. I think we went a little bit too much. That's about 26. So we'll leave it there, see if that's good. Also, the other plug that was in there took a 5/8 socket, and this one's a little bit bigger. I had to go dig out the 18 millimeter. Finger tight. That's the decompression switch. I don't like how that's set up. I read that out is how you drive it and you pull it in to start it. You'd think they'd have it built so it was always tucked in when you're driving so it didn't catch on anything. And then you'd pull it out when you needed it. Okay, what else do we have going on here? I was going to show you a couple more things. So the fuel, the tank is right above this petcock, and then it comes down there and it runs up here to the fuel pump, which is right there. And I am up underneath. This is by the left front. There is a line that runs from the carburetor into the back of that fuel pump, which operates as a pump. The way that fuel pump works is it has a little gasket in there, and it's operated by the engine vacuum when the engine is running. And it has spark and compression. So I'm going to bypass this fuel pump and the petcock. I'm going to set up a test tank and just gravity feed the fuel right into the carburetor. All right, we'll give it a little choke. Wow, that fired right up. That's running on the choke right there. That's just idling along perfect right there. Maybe we don't even need a carb clean. That's amazing. So we have a problem with the petcock or the fuel pump. So let's look into those next. Looks like we might have had a mouse living in the muffler. They have different configurations for these carburetors and the petcocks and the fuel pumps. So I trace these lines back, and this one here, well, this is a line here that runs from the fuel pump right into the carburetor, and I've replaced it with this gravity fed test tank. These two lines here are just breather hoses that run up right underneath the gear shifter at the top of the snorkel here. There is a choke and a throttle cable line. This line here is the vent to the back of the fuel pump. What I'm thinking is, since this line is hooked up to the back of the fuel pump, once the engine's running, it must be pulsating. So we should be able to turn the petcock on and see if fuel's going to flow out of this line. I looked in the tank and there's not enough fuel to run it on the on position. So I'm going to turn it to reserve and we'll fire it back up and see if any fuel comes out of this line. So we'll turn our test tank back on. And we'll run this line in here. I have that turned on reserve. Give it a little bit of choke. Alrighty, well, that was unexpected. When I first started it, I had it on. I had to reach under and change it to reserve. So that's all working. That doesn't make any sense. Is it possible that they didn't have enough fuel in it and didn't have it on reserve, so it wasn't picking the fuel up? Is it possible that that champion plug is a incorrect plug, or maybe it's not gapped properly? We'll have to look back into that. There's another line there with the Phillips screw on it. That runs to the carburetor, and you can easily adjust the idle speed with that. We're looking at the fuel pump on the left front. Let me tell you about my failure, and then I'll tell you about the success. I thought, I have the left front wheel off here. I thought I could take that line off on your left, and that runs right to the gas tank through the petcock, and I thought I was going to be able to get the old gas out of there, but I don't know if I can get you to see it here, but oh yeah, that line runs down and then back up to the tank. So when I took that line off, I couldn't use gravity to get the fuel out of it. My next plan was to take this manual pump, and I took the fuel out of the gas tank. So that's the fuel, less than 2 liters. It's not in bad shape. I could probably run it in my truck, or I could have left it in there and just diluted it with new fuel. I hooked up the fuel pump back into the carburetor, and I forgot to press record, of course, and I fired it up, and it was like, I'm trying to remember, I think it took 3 times, about 10 seconds each to get it going. So that's running now, because I'm kind of curious why the previous owner told me it had spark, but it wouldn't fire. So I'm going to put that old plug in and see if we still get the same thing, because I thought for sure after talking to him, we had a fuel issue, that petcock wasn't letting fuel come out, or the fuel pump wasn't pumping it back to the carburetor, but that's all good. So let me grab that old spark plug. I'm curious to why this thing started up so easy after the previous owner told me that he had spark and it wouldn't start. So I'm gonna go back to the plug that he had in it. And I'm gonna put that back in, and we'll see if it'll start now that I don't even remember if I did anything. Well, there's an issue right there. This is a brand new plug. You can tell that it's never been run, and I don't know why, but new plugs must get banged around a bit because they never have the right gap. This doesn't have any gap to it. Let me pull this one out. Is it possible that he had spark, but he never checked the gap? The only reason I put a new plug in it was the service manual called for a different plug, and when I was over it to the dealership, I just grabbed another one. Well, there's quite a bit of difference. So let's see if this, I can't even remember what we did now. Let's turn this over and see if we have spark. I'll turn some lights out here. Yep, we have lots of spark. So I'm going to put it back in as is. Try it. And then set the gap. See if it'll fire. All right. Choke. Well, I have to go back over my videos and see what I've done to this thing over the last year. I don't think I've done anything that would have caused that to work. That is beyond bizarre to me. What did we do? I think the only thing we did was change the oil. That's crazy. Maybe he was just trying to justify that he didn't want it. Well, I have a new air filter. I'll put a new air filter in it and we'll see if this thing will drive. Maybe that was what the issue was. Maybe when he said run, he meant drive. I'm going to put together this air filter. I bought a new air filter. Instructions come with it. Before fitting the filter, soak the element into some air filter oil or engine oil with around SAE 30 squeeze the oil out of the element, then fit it in the frame. If the air cleaner is clogged with dust, wash the element. All right, so that's basic filter maintenance. I usually spray on filter oil for no other reason to choose this brand than it's what our local Suzuki dealership has on the shelf, but I see this already has some pre-oil on it, so I'm not going to bother doing that. Plus the fact it's fall here, heading into winter. We already have snow on the ground, so I'm going to take this out on the street for a minute and a half to see if the gears work, and then the rest of the winter I'm going to be working on the suspension, so I don't need to so I'm not going to be driving this in the dust anywhere. I was mentioning before that the air filter has some damage right there. I was going to attempt to repair, and I just found yesterday a guy that claims he has one in excellent condition. The Suzuki dealership told me these are no longer available. The cover has a little gasket around it and it's gone, and Suzuki can get this cover. They don't sell the gasket separately, so I think for about $30 I ordered a new one of these, but it's not in yet. You can see there the blue. They had some sort of, I don't know what it was, gasket maker or something trying to fill in this hole. So I'm either going to try to fix this to make it do, or if this other guy comes through with one that's in good shape, then I'll make a video of switching that over in the future. Now there was this piece here, went inside. Don't want to rip this, it costs an arm and a leg. And then there is a piece that goes on here that kind of wedges it in. And that's held in by a screw. Flatten this box out. That's not tightening up. That might be as good as I'm going to get it. And then this goes down in there. I guess that's it. I grabbed the little screwdriver out of the tool pouch because they're probably JIS screws from Japan. I have a set somewhere. Alrighty, let me get this off the dollies and we'll push it outside. I don't want to put it in gear in the garage in case it just takes off and won't stop, which happened to us on a little snowmobile once. I'll bring you back when I'm outdoors. I'll get the bike off the dollies. You go put on your winter jacket and toque and mittens because it's below freezing. I'll meet you outside. You see the attitude of those wheels? How they're turned out at the, tilted out at the top? That's because the shock is set to its lowest setting. Since I'm over 200 pounds, I'll probably crank that up to the highest setting, and that'll put a preload on those tires and it'll straighten them right up. That'll be another video for another day. Okay, the gas is on. Give it choke. We have no brakes. I hope you don't have to have brakes to put this thing in reverse. She died. Oh yeah. I'll put you up here in the front. Hey, the gears are 5 up. Can't get my foot under it. The fender's bent. So there's first. Second. Third. Fifth. Fourth. third, second, first. First, coming back into neutral. We got low. So we should go into super low. I don't know if my shifter's bent. That fender skirt's bent, so we'll have to try to mold that and see what's wrong with that. Oh, that's really low. There's third. We're barely moving. See if we can go into four-wheel drive. Now I'll see if this thing will go into differential lock, which it won't. Oh, I think we have to be in super low. How will it go? Yeah. Neutral. Ice right here. See how it'll pump it. Yeah, quite a bit of difference. I'll back it up and we'll go two-wheel drive. Go in reverse. Forward. First. Yeah, it still went up there, but it was spinning. Stuck. All right, that was a good test. Back into neutral. Shut her down. I'm believing that they're the correct kilometers because this bike is a 30-year-old brand new machine. Really surprised me that it started up so easy after the previous owner said he was having problems getting it going. And I think we'll stop this video here, and the next thing we'll do is we'll start working on the brakes, and we'll have some videos on that as well. So thanks for hanging out in the garage. We'll catch you on the next one. I just shut it off there, turned the flashlight on. That carb is seeping from the float bowl, I think. So I have a carb rebuild kit on order. It's going to take a month to get here, but we'll take that carburetor out and give that a good cleaning and see how we do with that.